The Premier League is facing an injury crisis. 196 injuries, 15% more than last season, have already been suffered this season. And up until this point, West Ham have found themselves relatively unscathed. In fact, we've had 0 injuries throughout the season. In the latest Premier League injuries list, Newcastle United and Sheffield all have 9 injuries. You then go further down the list to Chelsea, Liverpool, 6 injuries. 4 injuries for Villa, 3 for Palace, 3 for City, Everton. The lowest currently is Wolves at 2 injuries. And West Ham are the only side with 0 injuries. Or at least they were up until this international break. As I said, we had 0 injuries and now we have 3 injuries. So not only do we leapfrog to the 17th, joint 17th to joint 13th worst injury record in the Premier League. We had 0 injuries all of but a couple of days ago. And since that graphic was released in classic West Ham fashion, 3 of our players have been injured. I think Mark is going to be doing a more in-depth video on the Jarrod Bowen situation, so I won't go too much into his injury. But to start off with him, which is obviously the biggest injury, of course, it's, well, not the biggest in terms of the injury suffered, but in terms of the impact it could have. It's a knee injury and it's expected to be fairly minor. X did put out a statement on Patreon and said that the injury is probably less serious than we first feared. So no telling whether he's going to be back for the game against Burnley at the weekend. We're not entirely sure on how that's all going to work. But as it stands at the moment, even if he does just miss that game, it shouldn't be a serious injury, maybe 1 or 2 weeks tops. Of course, the fact that he is injured is then increased by the fact that Antonio has now picked up what I'm being told is a very serious injury, another hamstring problem, which probably will leave him out for up to 1 or 2 months, potentially. Obviously, again, we don't know the extent of the injury, but considering it's a reoccurring injury for Antonio, it's likely that it's going to keep him sidelined for a month to 2 months at least, I would have thought. And that makes things very difficult because obviously we have Bowen playing in that centre forward / striker role. He's now going to have to vacate that if he's injured. Obviously, Antonio can't come into cover. So that leaves us with Danny Ings and Mubama. And I'll be doing a video very soon on the situation with our who's going to be leading our strike force very soon. Probably the next video you'll see. So Mikel Antonio, another player injured on international duty. And like I say, he could potentially be 1 or 2 months. And Thomas Souček as well. I mean, he's got a reoccurring injury, which is that he just loves to get a head injury. He just loves to throw his body in front of boots. And he got nicked pretty badly. I think he was just in the box, sort of on the floor, trying to get in the way of the ball. And the player's studs hit him in probably about this sort of area of the face. And he's got a nasty sort of a nasty cut because of it. Of course, last time I think he had to have plastic surgery or maybe like facial surgery or something like that because of the injury that he suffered to his face. I don't know the extent of the injury. Once again, we don't know the extent of the. Like I said, this is all very recent. The international break, I think the games were 1 or 2 days ago, and as of yet, some of the players may not have even returned to West Ham for a proper analysis. But as it stands, Souček supposedly will make the next game. It's not a serious injury. Of course, you know, it's never good to have a facial injury because it does mean that you're less likely to go up for challenges. You can get cuts which reopen and, you know, you're not allowed to have an open cut on the field, really. You've got to keep it covered up. So I assume we're going to see headband Souček again, which, of course, is one of my favourite iterations of Souček. But yeah, it's just all come at once. It's come at a very difficult time. Like I said, the Premier League is at an injury crisis at the moment, with even the top teams having 9 injured players. I mean, I'll just quickly run over the numbers again. Newcastle, Man United and Sheffield, all with 9 players, almost a starting 11, all injured for them. And obviously you saw the impact that had on Newcastle and the reaction from Kieran Trippier the other day. Arsenal, Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton, Tottenham, all with 7 injuries. Luton, Liverpool and Chelsea all with 6. Aston Villa with 4. Palace, City, Nottingham, Everton, Fulham, and now ourselves on 3. And Burnley and Wolves at the bottom with just 2 injuries. And like I said, we had 0 injuries like literally a couple days ago. So it's not good. It's not good at all. 196 injuries, and in fact, it's a 15% increase compared to the last 4 seasons. Not just last season, the last 4 seasons. It's a 15% increase. The 196 injuries we're facing, and of course, we're playing more games and all this other stuff. But it definitely does seem. 196 injuries so far. Obviously, not occurring at the same time, but 196 different injuries in the Premier League is absolutely mental. I mean, by those sorts of standpoints, you say that almost every single player in the first teams have, or to account for a first team, you can almost make up the 20 times 11. You could almost make that up with the 196 injuries we've had. So we've almost had 20 first team numbers injured in the Premier League this season, and it's not just the small clubs which don't have the good infrastructure, maybe don't have as good support in terms of the facilities they're getting, in terms of the physio treatment. I mean, I think Manchester City have got to have probably the best physio treatment in the entire league. I mean, absolutely they have to. I mean, look at the amount of money they've got. Look at what they can do, and even them themselves have I think I said it was 4 or 5 injuries. Chelsea have so much money. Liverpool, Manchester United. I mean, I know they're in a bit of a crisis at the moment, but even themselves probably have very decent physiotherapy setups. And we're talking about the top teams in the country, the teams that can get the absolute best advice, the best treatments, the best beds, literally every single thing you could ever want to treat a player, every single thing you could want to stop a player from getting injured, these top clubs have. And they're still suffering 9, 6, 7, 8 injuries. It's just absolutely crazy. And what's even more crazy is the fact that West Ham have only just come up with injuries, because we are a club that famously loves an injury. We have so many injuries across the season, and so far this season we haven't had any. And then of course the international break happens, and we get 3 all at the same time. And it's not an injury, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Vladimir Coufal was also sent back early from, I think, the Czech team because he went to a nightclub. So we've had our first team right winger converted to striker injured. We've had our backup striker injured. We've had one of our starting midfielders injured, and our starting right back, who's been in great form, sent home from international duty and facing probably reprimations. So it's been a pretty good international break, to be honest. It's just been, people say that the international breaks are boring and that, we want the football back and, we want Premier League back. But, I mean, when you're getting stories like this, it's actually quite entertaining, I guess, to a West Ham fan. But listen, to summarise, Souček should be back for the Burnley game. Bowen, we're not sure yet. I think probably the Burnley game might be a tad bit too soon. Antonio, there's no way he's making that Burnley game. We're going to have to adjust a little bit. And Coufal, I think, shouldn't have any repercussions on him playing for us. I don't know what the deal is, like if you can get suspended from our team from breaking international rules. I'm not sure exactly what the protocol is, but what I would imagine is that it's just on the international side. It's not actually going to have much of an impact on us. So yeah, the Premier League's in an injury crisis. West Ham seem to be looking to be in an injury crisis as well. So hopefully it's just those 3 players. Hopefully they will return back match fit. Of course, we will give you the updates as and when we have them. And I'll see you on the next one.